Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Ask Dave. A viewer asked, well, a whole bunch of questions. How many hours a day do I spend listening to music and things like that? But finally, do I get aural fatigue? I like that question. It's an interesting question. It really is. And I think it's worth discussing because we all have different listening habits, and we all want to put ourselves in a position to get the most out of our listening experiences, and you can overdo it. You really can. So I'm going to answer this question in a wider sense and hopefully engender a discussion about how we encounter the music and what our strategies are. I don't ever get aural fatigue. I really don't. In the sense that I've just had enough of listening to music. I can't listen anymore. It's making me sick or whatever. No, never's happened. Has never happened. I do get composer fatigue, which is a little different. There are moments where if I overindulge in a single composer who has a very distinct style, I need a break. I could use a break because once you know it really well, if you know it really by heart, or you know the sound, it can become predictable. And you never want the experience to be predictable. You always want to be freshly surprised. So I do take breaks from certain composers. I always have. I mean, I had a 5-minute Wagner period. It's hard to get a lot of Wagner in a 5-minute Wagner period, but I did. And then I took a break for about 10 or 20 years and then came back to it. And it worked really, really, really well. Mahler was a composer who I absolutely got drunk on and enjoyed every minute of it, but I knew when to stop. I knew when to stop when the record label started issuing boatloads of crappy Mahler performances. Just horrible, endless, awful Mahler performances. I said, okay, I'm not going to listen to buckets of mediocre Mahler. I stopped listening to Mahler for pleasure and only listened to Mahler when I had to write a review. And that really gave me a whole different perspective on it because I was listening to it critically. And I was still, catching up on everything that came out. Yeah, I heard it, but I wasn't rushing. I didn't feel like I was under pressure. And that's the thing. You don't want to ever say, I think, that you're listening to something because you have to. You do it because you want to. And that's really the key for me. And that's also related to the question of how much time do I spend every day listening to music? It differs every day. It depends how I feel. Part of the reason the question comes up is because I know so many recordings. But you've got to remember, I've been doing this for 40 years. And in 40 years, I've heard a lot of recordings. And I'm very lucky in one sense because it's hard to describe, but I have a trick memory. I remember virtually everything I've heard. I remember every commercial jingle I've heard since I was a little kid. I just remember things. And I remember differences between performances. And it helped me when I was studying foreign languages too. I always remembered all the irregular verbs and things like that. I have a quirky memory when it comes to that. So that's helped me enormously because I can make comparisons in my mind in real time between performances. And I just hear them that way. So, that's something that's helped me along the way. I think that if I didn't have that, I would have to spend a lot more time just sitting and listening than I used to. But there's another aspect of this that I want to talk about, which I think is a question of how we treat and approach the act of listening. Because some people, I remember reading books. I remember there's a book, a biography of Seiji Ozawa by a Japanese critic. It's a very good book. But, he has his record collection. It's all LPs or something. I don't know. He's got his, he takes out the LP with religious sanctity and puts it on his system and puffs it away. And they sit in a chair like this listening. I've never listened to music that way. Never, ever, ever, ever. I mean, when I go to concerts and I have to sit in a chair and just listen to it, I do it. And that's a special experience that I reserve for that. But when I'm home, when I'm just in my listening room, I'm almost always either doing something else, something mindless that doesn't distract me from my, attention to the music, or I'm just relaxing. I lay down in bed. I have a really good stereo system in my room, my bedroom, or I walk around the house, or I write reviews, or I'm always busy. And music is sort of the environment that defines my life. And I know that's not the way a lot of other people listen, and there's no right or wrong way about this. But I have to say, I have to give credit, and I wrote back actually to the person who asked the original question and said this to my mother. And if you've met my mother, if you haven't met my mother, look up the videos that have mom in them, and you can meet mom. She's done 3 videos with me now. And she's, 87 years old and a remarkable woman. I mean, she really is a great mother. Let me tell you, she's God's gift to motherhood. I don't care what anyone says. But the fact of the matter is that with her, she's the reason I got into classical music. She always loved it. She had it on all the time when I was a kid. She never made a fuss about it. She had the music she liked. It was classical music. It was American musical theater, Broadway musicals, which I adore. And regard as classical music, absolutely. And she had some popular music stuff, and all the things that she liked, and they were just there. They were part of the environment, the way I feel music today. And so, I grew up and went through life. She would do housework and to Schubert's Unfinished Symphony. I mean, it was never something apart. It was always a natural and normal. As I said, she normalized music for me, part of my life and my daily musical experience. Now, that wasn't true when it came to my brother and sister. They didn't pick it up the way I did. But that's because I guess I just had a feeling for it, or a desire to listen to it. I mean, if you don't like it, if you don't care about music generally, it's not going to matter how much of it there is in the world around you. But even they, who are not classical music aficionados, hardcore, are completely comfortable with that environment, with listening to the classics, and it was never, I hate to say it wasn't anything special, because it's incredibly special to me. And because I think these works are special. I think they're, monuments to artistic genius and Western culture and all of those things. It's not to denigrate their uniqueness, their specialness, their extraordinary qualities, but it's just to make it approachable. What I learned from my mother was that this was here for me. For me to just enjoy as I pleased, however I pleased, whenever I pleased, for whatever reason, whatever I was doing. And I just think that was such a precious gift. I really, really do, because so many people have their especially classical music people, who are kidding, have their egos and their self-worth wrapped up in the fact that they like classical music. With us, with my family, it was just never that way. It was never that way at all. It was just something there to be enjoyed if that's where your interests led you. And if that's where they went, here it is. It's yours. Take it and run with it. So that's what I did. And so that's the other reason why I think I don't get aural fatigue, because I don't hear anything fatiguing. And last but not least, it's not just that I don't get aural fatigue. If something bores you or something annoys you, play something else. I mean, there's so much to choose from. And that's the other thing I discovered. Like I said, certain composers, okay, I need to take a break from Bruckner once in a while. I need to take a break from all of them, except maybe Haydn, once in a while, because you need variety, and the variety is out there, and it's the variety that's so fabulous. It's the ability to find the right thing for any time or any activity or anything you want to do. And so, as a critic, as a critic, when I'm listening to new recordings and I'm, trying to evaluate them and whatnot, one of my criteria for great performances is a certain naturalness. It's not that they don't grab your attention. Music always grabs my attention. No matter what else I'm doing, I'm paying attention to the music first and foremost. That's what has my attention. It's just great to be able to do something mindless at the same time, something easy, something to keep yourself busy. But I I find that it really is a that feeling of inevitability and naturalness and normalcy, and that the music is there and it's part of your life. It's part of your being. It's part of the environment in which we live, and it enhances all of those things. I mean, that really is what I listen for. It's something that's completely indefinable. You can't quantify it, but I don't need to tell you all the great performances have it, of course, because you put them on, and however you listen, whether you listen like this, sitting in a chair, whether you're laying down or doing yoga, whatever you're doing, the great performance suspends time. It just, when it's over, you just look up and go, oh, wow, what happened? What was that? You've had a life enhancing experience, and however long it took is totally irrelevant. You're not conscious of it, and that's how I listen to it, and so that's why I think I don't suffer from aural fatigue, and why I don't worry about how much time I spend at it. I spend enough time to do what I need to do, and I love it, and that's the thing I think that matters the most. If you love it, it's the time is immaterial. It's just there to be used. So that's my feeling about it, and I'm very interested to have your opinion too. And I want to thank the commenter who decided to ask the question. It got me thinking, and I hope it gets you thinking as well. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.